Many Dungeons& Dragons players ask the question, is it worth it to buy Fizban's Treasury of Dragons? This recently released book encompasses a lot of new content for new players and can be an incredibly exciting release from Wizards of the Coast, as it features one of the most iconic creatures in the game. However, the question still remains, is it worth your time and your money to add to your collection? A wonderful table of content lets us know exactly what this book contains, from interesting character options, to new stat blocks for different types of dragons, to whole new spells dedicated to draconic magic. This book seems to contain not only facts and information regarding dragons in the more traditional settings that D&D is based in, but it also contains some pretty nifty little character and player options that I think a lot of people at the table will get a great deal of satisfaction from. Something that I'm a great fan of in the new D&D products is these chapter breakdowns. These are really useful and handy. It's a nice, easy, quick reference way of finding different sections of the book, and it's something that I hope Wizards of the Coast do continue for a long time to come. It's no surprise that this book features an additional player race, and this is pretty interesting. I think it just expands upon the lore that is already there, and I think this will fit into most settings that Dragonborn are generally found in, and if you're running a dragon-heavy campaign, maybe a really nice addition to your game. The Monk and the Ranger get some new subclasses here that are all based around dragons and dragon-like abilities, for example flame breaths and that kind of thing, which again is really cool, and if you're interested in playing a character like that, gives you a bit more versatility and some more options as a player. So something that I noticed got my players quite excited was the new inclusion of some draconic spells or dragon-themed spells. We don't have a massive list. This is not a new spell book, for example, but we do have a few really nice thematic spells that have been added to the game with this book. And something else that's quite cool is the inclusion of these draconic gifts and feats, which again are just a really nice way of customizing characters. We customize our characters as much through rewards and quest items as we do with class choices and race choices, so I think this is something that players can get really excited about too. Something that I'm really glad that they decided to include, more for the DMs then, is role-playing these dragons and dragons in play, and it gives you some information and some lore and some background about these dragons and how to make them seem more interesting, give them some unique appearance options, that kind of thing. And that's a really nice inclusion then for the DM. And so that box is sort of ticked in that regard, and it's nice to see them focusing a book on dragons, but then not forgetting about one of the most important things, and that is the roleplay element of this game. This sort of leads into dragon encounters and some tips for running dragon encounters, and just, I think these are useful tips of just encounter building in general, and they actually kind of mention a little bit of the cult of the dragon and sort of allies of dragon folk in general here. And so again, you're given some really useful information when it comes to running interesting dragon encounters as a DM. This all begins to lead into what a chunk of this book is. It's a fair whack of this book, and that is just dragons and their abilities and making them more interesting, things like their lair actions and all that kind of thing. And we have a bunch of different types of dragons and some example lairs given to us here, with loads of interesting maps, and it focuses on, again, just making dragons more of an interesting epic-like encounter. And all this leads into the dragon's lair design, the locations. We're given some details, we're given a ton of maps that are really just plug and play. Like, you could just take some of these maps and put them straight into your world and into your game and have a really cool dragon encounter on the go. And of course you can't have a dragon's lair with dragon lair abilities and cool weapon attacks and all that kind of thing without having a dragon horde, and we're given some tables on creating a dragon horde here too, which again is just really nice to see. I'm glad they included that. And I would say that that section is a massive chunk of the adventure, but I'm going to take a pause here and just show you a few of the stills of some of the artwork in this book, because the artwork is just incredible. Like, as we've come to expect with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the artwork is really something to admire, and it's something that is just brilliant. It adds a lot of detail, a lot of depth, and I wouldn't be able to show you this book without touching on some of the art pieces, because the art is phenomenal. Especially when it comes to dragons, we've got some wonderful art pieces here to really inspire you as a DM and as a player. So this is just some wonderful stuff. So as you would imagine with a book like this, the final section is dedicated pretty much to a bestiary, full of different types of dragons and different variants. And I'm not going to show you any of the stat blocks here, because I want to encourage you to buy the book. But I'm going to show you some of the art, and hopefully that gives you an idea of the kinds of monsters you'll have in here, from dragonborn to different types of dragons. Certainly I would say if you're running any dragon-themed encounter or a dragon-heavy campaign, it's worth taking a look at this book, because there's some just wonderful things in here that are very inventive and I haven't even thought about. From different types of risen dragons to even dragon ghosts, which you'll see right now. I mean, like, say no more. It's just some cool stuff in this book. It's very exciting, absolutely marvellous. I highly recommend this if you're planning on running a dragon-themed campaign. And I think that's not only its greatest strength, but it's also its biggest failure as well. If you're planning on running a dragon-themed campaign, or you want your characters to be heavily linked with dragons, then this is of course the book for you. But if dragons are not going to feature quite heavily in your campaign, then this really isn't worth the price. Yeah, you have some really cool player options like dragon magic, some new subclasses, but there's nothing in there that I feel is so important that you need to have this book in your collection. And if you're a collector, you're going to purchase this book regardless. If you're going to be running or playing in a dragon-heavy campaign, pick this book up. You're not going to regret it. If not, maybe consider picking up something else that you're missing first, and then going from there. But hey, that's just my opinion. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope this has helped you in some way, shape or form. Have a great day.